It's hard to find fault with Hizmet's approach to charity. Hizmet doesn't ask, what religion are you? Hizmet does not ask, what are you friendly to our ideas of politics, of civil rights? Hizmet looks at troubled spots, and Hizmet provides. The editors of the paper, and I could see that they were Hizmet's approach to charity. Hizmet doesn't ask, what religion are you? Hizmet does not ask, what. I'm not sure that I understand what he says. I saw people who were open. I'm Kapali Lyon, also Jeffrey Lyon. I'm a professor of religion at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. My main subjects are Christian and Jewish scripture, Old Testament, New Testament. I also teach the life of Jesus, Christian and Jewish prophetic literature, and I do most of my research, however, in ancient Hawaiian religion. I was very prepared to be skeptical of Hizmet in every way. I teach religion. I deal with a lot of religious organizations. Some are impressive, some are less impressive. I don't think I've ever run into a current day religious movement that impresses me more than Hizmet. I saw firsthand a number of their activities in Turkey. I went to Turkey skeptical. I came back from Turkey with most of my skepticism gone and feeling that it was an organization that I could really get behind. I've read about Mr. Gulen. I've certainly read articles that oppose his work. I've read articles, material that endorses him. My greatest impression of him came when I was talking to several very wealthy people, I think, in Turkey. And I was very impressed not only by Mr. Gulen's charisma, by the hold he had on them, but how he used that. There are not many people who can convince people to be better than they are. And the people that I met in Turkey had been convinced by Mr. Gulen to be better human beings, to take the resources that they had and do something with them, to make the world a better place. Not just the Islamic world, not just the world where they lived in, but the world. I saw people who were moved by his influence in ways that, well, they didn't just impress me, they thrilled me. They moved me inside. Movements that are based on the charisma of one particular person, you never know what's going to happen later. Will that charisma be continued? Will the organization continue to go in the same direction? What I did see of him, though, or what the movement was doing things that were going to continue doing good in the world long time after Mr. Gulen would be gone. And that was primarily in schools, and schools that were not focused on, certainly not averse to, but not focused on religious instruction, that were focused on giving people a better position in life, making people more informed, making people understand the world around them better. And the schools that I saw were remarkably good examples of that. And that's something that's going to continue on, whatever happens. I feel Hizmet's emphasis on education is absolutely right on track. There are many approaches to dealing with problem areas in the world, and many of them include combating every flare-up, swatting mosquitoes, to borrow an analogy that I learned from a Hizmet representative. Hizmet does not aim at swatting mosquitoes, it aims at drying up swamps. And I think education is far and away the best way to do that. And wherever Hizmet schools are, I feel that somebody is doing something good about a situation, whether an area is troubled or poor or whatever its issues. Hizmet will make it a better place. Hizmet schools will make their students better people. I think Hizmet's taken a real risk. but I admire that risk. I know that that's not a popular thing to do in many circles. And Hizmet willing to step out and do something that is not appreciated by a lot of folks is certainly appreciated by me. The willingness to deal with people not strictly on a basis of we're all members of the same faith, but a willingness to deal with people who come from different faiths. I know that that's caused problems. I know that there are many people who oppose that. I think it's remarkable, and I hope it, if anything, it expands. Islam has a pretty low reputation in most of the United States. We hear Islam in the news, and we think, oh, it's going to be a beheading. It's going to be a militaristic movement. It's going to be an Islamic State. It's going to be something that is not interested in the world as a whole, but interested in empowering one particular view of Islam. I think that I wish Hizmet was the face of Islam we mostly saw, and I think it would represent Islam in a much better light than anything else that we see at the moment. I certainly felt that. Hizmet just seemed too good to be true. And as a human organizations have their failings. And I worried about the influence of Mr. Gulen. Charismatic religious leaders are in a position to do a lot of harm. I think I saw firsthand that influence is used in the rarest and best of ways to make people determined to be better people, to make people determined to do good within the world. The risk is, of course, what will happen after Mr. Gulen. I don't think any of us know. Is Hizmet too good to be true? It seems too good to be true, and yet I haven't seen the dark side. I'm not Muslim. I cannot evaluate Hizmet in terms of its approach to Islam. I can only evaluate it in its approach to me, to a non-Muslim. I haven't seen anything I don't like. I tell people, my friends, that I drank the Kool-Aid, and Hizmet is an organization that I just haven't seen a dark underside to. I have certainly read other criticisms that there is a dark motive, that there is a deep and insidious political motive. If it is, it's not only well hidden, it's badly done. Insidious motives should do a better job should bring about power in ways that I don't see that Hizmet is going to receive power from what it's doing. Its schools they don't seem to be banging a Hizmet drum. If Hizmet has a deep political agenda, then I think they're not doing it very well. They're not garnering enough political power and following to succeed at becoming a political power. The kind of following they get are people who admire their tolerance, their humanity, their determination to do something good in the world, their willingness to meet people at a human level, rather than you become Muslim and then we'll talk, but you be who you are and we'll talk anyway. So anyway, I'm aware of the criticism, my own examination, and as I said, I have read a fair amount on it. I haven't seen any arguments that I could take very seriously to this point. I sat in with the editors of the paper, and I could see that they were worried about developments in Turkey. And I could see that they were worried about what was the future of their free press, of freedom of speech, of human rights. And I could not help but think of some of the readings I was doing about at the time of the American Revolution, where people were worried about the same things. Do we have a future as a nation that's going to allow our people to say what they say? We don't need to correct it. We don't need to steer it. We don't need to make it be in agreement with everybody else. People have the right to say what they're going to say. And those people who were not my ancestors, but certainly my nation, they faced real risks. They put themselves in a dangerous position. And I had never felt anybody reflect that same fear, that same danger, that same risk, and yet that same hope in my own country. I felt talking with those press leaders that I was back in 1776 in America, deciding what's going to be the path that we take and liking the path that they chose. It's hard to find fault with Hizmet's approach to charity. Hizmet doesn't ask, what religion are you? Hizmet does not ask, what are you friendly to our ideas of politics, of civil rights? Hizmet looks at troubled spots and Hizmet provides. I wish some of the charitable organizations from my religion had exactly that same view. Some do, but some have a more narrow focus. I like the way Hizmet deals with disaster relief. I loved my trip to Turkey. I felt at home, surprisingly at home in Turkey, and I'm not sure that I understand the reasons for it. I saw people who were open and friendly and interested and not xenophobic. I don't think I've ever eaten better in my life. I saw history that came to life for me, places that I had studied for years and years. There were worrisome developments, though. Turkey, which has taken such a strong stand on democracy in the past, in some ways seems to be retreating from that stand. Democracy and individual rights, and I'm very interested to see how that's going to turn out. Some of the things that have developed over the years of Turkey that I was less fond of. Turkey has such a wonderful history, particularly under the Ottoman years, such a wonderful history of being a cosmopolitan, diverse society. Constantinople or Istanbul was less than 50% Turkish and Muslim 100 years ago, and now it's 99% Turkish and Muslim. So those are developments that came about for a lot of different reasons. Not all of those are good developments, and I would love to see Turkey actively embrace non-Muslims, non-Turks within its citizenship a little bit more. But in terms of a modern, really wonderful country to visit, I don't think I've ever had a better trip.
Persian philosopher Al-Ghazali speaks of the tree of knowledge, and he says the fruits of that tree are the actions. There is no knowledge without good actions. And I think that is very well exemplified in the Hizmet movement.
One of the things that really impressed me about Hizmet is that, to me, it seems to be the one opportunity that I've seen in the present state of Islam to bring the religion and the culture back to where it was 700 years ago, 600 years ago, where Islam was at the peak of education. It was at the peak of civilization.